Hi, everybody. Rick DiClemente with Astrology Unplugged. Welcome tonight, a further episode in our group of sessions that have to do with getting people unstuck. I'll be announcing some of the schedule over the holidays here during the show tonight. The show will go on for about an hour and a half. And tonight we will be reading the chart of Kathy, who is pretty much a regular and has volunteered her chart because she believes that she is stuck. And there are many, many people that have different kind of stuck. So I'm not going to argue with somebody, but I do make the mistake every week when I'm done asking people how stuck they feel at the end or unstuck. So we're going to remember to do that at the very end. I think I see what's happening in your chart, Kathy, but I want to start out by asking you where you are.
I'm in Oklahoma City.
Okay, Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City, very good. You are welcome. You are 2 hours different?
1 hour.
1 hour, all right. Okay, let's get the basics down. Are you married, lady?
No.
Okay, and what have you done? You're a Virgo. So what have you done most of your life in general with your work?
In general, I've done office work. I've been office managers and basically managed data and spreadsheets and
No.
bookkeeping and that type
No,
of
you
stuff.
ran the perfect job. And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
nobody better than the Virgos doing that.
Right,
So
right.
I'm sure these companies are very glad to have you. Now, are you retired?
Yes.
Okay, which is really small r when you use retire with Virgos because they retire, but they don't retire. They like to keep working.
Right.
Now, I want you to tell me what and how you feel stuck.
Well, I retired in November of 2018. And I took some time off, and in 2019, I was going to begin looking for a part-time job. And about the time I was starting that process is when the breast cancer was diagnosed. And so, and I ended up having a mastectomy later that year and going through chemo. And then in 2020, had heart damage from one of the medicines of the chemo. So I spent that year recovering. And then this year, just as I think I'm about out of that and the pandemic is somewhat ending, they found cancer in the other breast, and I had a mastectomy just about 5 weeks ago. So it's kind of like, okay, I really want this medical bullshit to be over with, excuse my language, so I can move on to whatever it is that I want to be doing. I'm tired of being sick and recovering.
Okay, well, I'm very
from
sorry.
something.
I'm very sorry for your illnesses. It's quite sad. We have a lot to talk about, and astrologically, I'm not a medical expert,
I understand.
but I understand what's going on subterranean. I deal with a lot of my time with Virgo women. The number one reading I do in terms of popularity, I have more Virgo women than anybody else. Very few Virgo men, but Virgo is the number one sign, and the number one illness amongst Virgo people, without a doubt, is GI tract.
Yeah, I got some of that.
Now, you've got Pluto near you, and Pluto is very common when it's near you that cancer manifests, or sometimes it'll manifest as a non-malignant. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I want to talk to you about is, let me get into a couple of things here. You've never been married, right?
No, I've been married.
Okay, all right. And you were married to what sign for how long?
I was married to a Taurus for 11 and a half years.
Okay, and when was that? When did that end?
1981.
Okay, so it ended 40 some years ago. All right. So since then, you've been doing an awful lot of office work, right?
Yeah, that was my profession.
Okay, which is your expertise. Wonder why it's doing this to me tonight. I'm using my monitor on you, and it's showing me something different than it ever did before. Okay, can you all see the chart? You can?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you. All right, let's go basically into Catfish chart. You'll notice Kathy has Mars rising, which is intriguing, and she's also got Mars square Venus. She's got the sun in Virgo next to Saturn, but Saturn is in a different sign. Sun conjunct Saturn by 6 degrees, but the line between them is when the sign changes from Leo to Virgo. The Mercury is in Virgo. There's a big T square. This is why you like astrology. Well, I'm not sure about this. Let me hold that for a minute. You got Chiron opposite the moon and a T square up to Pluto. That's the Cancer symbol. And that Pluto was probably activated during the time of Cancer. This does not mean that you would get it, that you wouldn't. It doesn't mean you get it again. You can't do things like that. But when you do have a Pluto that is significant in your chart more than others, your propensity towards that energy is greater than somebody else. Yes.
Okay.
Now, I just got finished. Let's make a long story short. I just got done listening with Ava Cassidy. She died when she was 33, and she's possibly the greatest singer I've ever heard. And she was born with the sun Saturn at the same degree in Aquarius. So your sun Saturn, I'm not going to get freaked out like some of the books do when you have Saturn too close to your sun, because she had an exact. And this was probably the most creative person I've ever heard. All right. The Venus is approaching the midheaven. It's in Cancer, but it's at 17. So it's definitely not a 10th house Venus. It's a 9th house Venus. And Venus in Cancer means if somebody wanted to date you, they didn't date you, they didn't date you in a rough way. They had to treat you more like a woman and be respectful of your feminine qualities.
Right.
When you have Venus square to Mars, it's a little unusual. I've seen it plenty of times, but these are the two sensual planets in your chart. And when they're square to each other, and I've checked this out, this is usually pretty true. What it means is during your growing up, the Mars wants to call the guy. The Venus says, wait for the call. The Mars says, let's call and just get it over with. Venus says, no, wait. And you just can't get these two, and you can't get these two happy. If the Mars goes, the Venus feels, told you shouldn't have gone, and vice versa. That's just common with Venus square Mars. They're mixed up when it's time to take an action or time to wait. Is that true for you?
Yeah.
Okay. No big deal. And if Venus and Mars were trine or sextile to each other, you call it the right time, you wait at the right time. It's just a blend. Okay. Now, what I'm thinking is very clear to me, and I worked on this a little while and talked to Liza about it before the show tonight. The Saturn in Virgo and Mercury in Virgo in the 11th house. The 11th house has a lot of different meanings and is very misunderstood, as are all the succeeding houses. The 11th house is known as the house of hopes and wishes and the houses of your friends and organizations. And that's not said lightly. That's exactly what it is. For example, the 10th house. The 10th house is when you go get a job and you get noted for your job and you're starting to run a successful business. Well, after you have a job for a while, you get like bored with the job and you want to move to a higher level, like the institute of or the organization of. So you might be a doctor in the 10th house. The 11th house is you might work for a medical association. So you work at a higher dimension. Mm-hmm. So when you have 11th house planets, it has a lot to do with your hopes and wishes on a really big scale. It also has a lot to do with organizations. So probably a lot of people tried to get you into medical organizations. What kind of business was it?
Well, one of them was when my husband and I had a logging business while we lived in Colorado. And then I managed homeowners associations and timeshare properties
Okay, so
in
you see it
Colorado.
already. You're seeing the 11th house there. You
Yeah.
see associations of.
Right.
Okay, so you've got these wonderful abilities.
Right.
Okay,
I do.
but what's happening in your chart is you're done with it. And it's really hard for us. It's really hard for a Virgo to be done with anything.
Oh my
They're
goodness.
done when they feel God tells them they're done. The other 11 signs have no problem being done. I'm done. I'm done. Virgos have to have an act of God or a letter from the Pope before they feel like they're done. I mean, I'm not joking. I'm doing this on purpose because us Capricorns are similar. Virgos have this tremendous sense of I've got to work, I've got to be productive, I've got to be good at it, and I can't talk about it. I just got to do it. And they got this tremendous sense of being pure at their work and being good at their work, and they're just wonderful. But I have to give them frankincense and myrrh and blessings all over them before I can get them to go on vacation. And then when they go on vacation, they hand me their itinerary. Going here Friday, going here Saturday, going. Okay, so it's not a sign that relaxes easily because, in a sense, Virgo feels that relaxing is for bums. This is where the trouble comes in because relaxing is not for bums. Bums may do a lot of relaxing and may not appeal to Virgos, fine. But a lot of times a Virgo needs to slack off, and almost everything you say to a Virgo will say the following to you. Good, I'll work on that. You don't have to work on it. That's the problem. That's the problem with Virgos. Good, I'll work on it. And they're just really good at it. Now, I'm not stupid. I've been around a long time, done a lot of readings. And a lot of times when you give spiritual tips or guidance to a Virgo and they say, good, I'll work on it, you got to leave it alone. They'll put it into their daily spiritual practices, and that's fine. So it's okay. But what I sense in your chart is a little bit different. We're going to dig a lot into the past life. I dig into your chart and I got a very strong sense that this has gone on way too far. This has gone on way too long, where you have been doing what you should. That's the dirty word in the Virgo dictionary. I've talked a lot about it on this show, and I'm a big haggler about it because there's nothing wrong with doing what you should to a point. But I told you all that for years now, last 3 or 4 years since I wrote the book, I've been trying to answer what this should mean. You should do this. I should do that. That's a tremendous sense that Virgos have. And they feel really wrong when they don't do what they should. Now, give me your response to that. True or false?
Well, it's very true because what I'm noticing in all this recovery stuff I've been doing, I've not been able to do the should stuff. And almost to the point of, in my mind, what I would consider lazy in my recovery process. So,
very good.
So there's almost like a sense of pressure being released of knowing that I don't have to continue to work so hard.
Now, one of the reasons that that's been happening, and this have to word I noticed, one of the reasons is this. Neptune has been 0 through 21 of Pisces. In the last 10 years, Neptune has been going through here, and that's been opposing all your Virgo planets, including recently it was opposite your Mercury, and it started talking to your Mercury in a completely different fashion. Mercury in Virgo is all the reasons that you should get to work and do this and then quit whining and go to work. And Neptune is all about relax. And it's not relaxed so you can goof off. It's relaxed because your nature is to let it flow. when you get to the ultimate point of the zodiac, when you get to the ultimate, I was talking a little bit to Teresa about this earlier. When you get to the ultimate dimension of the zodiac, it's my belief that you get to a part where you're just accepting. Look what Susan is doing in California, in Washington, and Oregon. She may not be falling into enlightenment, but she sure is on the path. She's not listing things. She's letting things flow. She has trouble with her vehicle. She has to get it fixed. She has to react to things, but she's allowing the Sag of herself to come out. She's allowing it to come out and have fun and explore. Well, that's a mortal sin to Virgo. And that's why they're at a right angle to Sagittarius. The Sagittarius have to do what they have to do. Virgos have to do what they have to do. Now, with Virgos, I notice, like with Libras, as they grow older, they get off their back so much, especially after 58 in the second Saturn return. But I'm not going to talk at all about your illnesses. I'm not qualified, and I'm not going to talk at all about all of the cancer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm going to talk about, have you been able all your life to allow the little Kathy to do what she wants to do?
No.
Well, see, it's not easy.
No,
Not easy. Okay, so all your life, as little Kathy, in my view of things, the little Kathy sends up a request up the pole to the committee up here, which is full of all the adults. It's really supposed to be full of one adult, one very sane, non-judgmental adult. And she says, I want to go ice cream. I want to go to the playground. What does the adult say? Well, the adult, in most cases, should say, well, the traffic is light. We got the money. We got the time. Let's go to the playground. Let's get ice cream. Let's get it all over us. A lot of signs say, okay. Other signs say, no, it's not okay, because we should be doing this, should be doing this, should be doing that. And when you do that, what are you saying to the life inside of you, which is the little child?
You're kind of stuffing it down.
Okay. Now, what I'm going to tell you is tonight could be heavy, but I'm not going to allow it to get heavy, because I think tonight is going to be glorious, because I've been watching you for several months now, and I think you're shooting through this. I think you are, because I think you're ready to hear it. And it's not you're listening to Rick the brother. It's not that.
Right.
It's that you're ready to hear this message that is emanating from your chart. Now, if you had this chart reading 10 years ago, it wouldn't hit home like this.
No.
Okay, so let's take a look here. And I saw it in the planets. All right. All right. All right. So Neptune has been over here, and Neptune has finished for several years talking to Mercury. Where's Pluto at? We've almost got a bucket pattern here. It's kind of a bucket, isn't it, to Jupiter and Sag, which really wants to have some fun. Where is, if you include Eris, it is a bucket to Jupiter and Sag. Where is Pluto right now? Pluto right now is on the Nader at 24, squaring Mars. Oh, there's a mouthful right there. All right. When Pluto crosses the fourth house cusp, remember, that's the nadir of the chart, which is where am I coming from? Where am I going to? Where am I coming from? Where am I going to? Pluto is sitting there. Pluto is ready, has been ready for a while. And now that it's squaring Mars, it's time to start throwing some people out of your life, out of the 10th story of the building, not just out of your life. It's time to start throwing some people out of your life. I'm giving it the intensity that it deserves. That's what this says.
Wow.
This does not mean that I told you about that cousin. I've been telling you about that cousin. Finally, let's get to that cousin. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying here is the part of you that has been reticent to throw people out has really harmed you. And why? because Virgos have a tendency to feel guilty if you let them stay around a little longer. All you got to do is work a little harder. It'd be fine for them if you just worked a little harder. It'd be fine for them if you just worked a little harder. It'd be fine for them if you just worked a little harder. And that answer won't fly anymore. It won't fly anymore. And it warned you, and it warned you, and it warned you. And after several warnings, you decided to create some cancer in your body. Because the breasts are what? The breasts are ways of feeding. They're ways of nurturing. Okay? And when you're a Virgo are big people. They're big. They don't complain, they don't whine. And they feed people and they take care of people. They mumble to themselves. They bitch about it. Virgos are real big on teaching you how to fish, but not to give you the fish. Big Virgo thing. Teach you how to fish, but not give you the fish. So I think that watch this, how this is so emblematic. It's so perfect how astrology works. Watch this here. All right. Now, Pluto is at 24. It's just finished opposing these ninth house planets. It's in the third house of the mind. It's crossing over into the emotions. I could spend a lot of time on just right here with Pluto, besides squaring the Mars. All right. Remember, the Mars squares Venus. And the Pluto has gotten involved with that Mars square Venus. So why do you think Mars squares Venus? Mars is, should I call him? No, I should just wait. Should I call him? No, I should just wait. So what it is astrologically is confusion between the male and female part of yourself. And everybody's got a male and a female part of themselves. Well, your Pluto's tired of the argument. It's just tired of the argument. And what Pluto's going to do now, or maybe in the past year, is just going to decide, and it's going to put a period at the end of the sentence. I made the decision. The decision's over. There will be no more discussion. That's what's happened with you. And since you've done that, your body has done better. Since you've done that, your body's done better. Because what hurts our body is when we go back and forth. That's what hurts us. We go back and forth, indecision. We can't settle anything, and the body doesn't know what to do. The body's neutral. It has no command of us, but when we give it confusing signals, it doesn't know what the hell to do, which is called discord. All right. Now, when Pluto crosses the Nader is where you've come from. It's your lineage, it's your home, it's your family, it's everything. So one of the things it's doing right now, is it wants you to resolve and bring closure to your upbringing. How you were thought of in the town that you were brought up, how you were thought of in the family, what role they saw you in, and all that. That's all coming up for grabs now. And you're ready to rewrite that entire chapter. And matter of fact, this is the time when people write their memoirs. So what's going on in that arena?
I can't think of anything that's going on with my family. I mean,
all right, let's talk about this. This is a tough issue, really rough. Yeah. Let's talk about, has anything going on with your family where, for instance, they're trying to push you back in your old role? You don't want to go back in the old role anymore. I want you to see me as I am now. Is any of that going on?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. How are you and the family getting along?
Oh, fine. I mean, I have 3 younger brothers and a younger sister, so I'm the oldest, and parents are both gone. So
okay. Now answer this. What are they doing in terms of letting all the problems fall to Kathy?
Oh, they've never let all the problems fall to me.
Okay, well, then you're very lucky.
Yes, I am.
You're very lucky. This symbol is very common with people who everybody did nothing. They all let it fall to Kathy. Kathy explodes, hands it back to them. Okay, the fact that you got a balanced family, that's a very good sign. Now, the next thing, it's square to Mars. I know a lot about this one because I've watched this for ages. All right. You got to keep a really close eye on Mars. Let me explain to you, and I'm serious here. I'm not talking about, all right, when you got Pluto down here squaring Mars, Pluto's going to stay for years and years and years in this area. But when the other Mars is going around every 2 years, when today's Mars going around every 2 years, and it gets here, and it gets here, and it gets here, and it gets here, it'll trigger that Pluto, which is sitting on that Mars. Do you understand?
Okay.
Let me give you a better example, a better graph. All right, here's the, okay, you saw it there for a second. They've changed something on Zoom. I used to have to paint everything twice. Now it's not the case. I'm not sure what they've changed. They probably told me and I didn't bother reading it. All right, let's share this again. Let me explain this to you clearly. There it is. Okay. You see how today's Pluto is squaring your natal Mars. Okay. That's in general. That's going back and forth. That's been going on for 3 years now. But when the daily Mars, this is Mars, Mars goes around every 2 years. When that Mars just got to here, when Mars got to here, when Mars gets to here, when Mars gets to here, like compass points. That's when it will trigger the Pluto, which is sitting on the Mars. That is the mainstay of how astrology works. When the sun gets there, also the sun will trigger it, but less violently. Okay, so you need to be well aware and educated for when does Mars get in that area. Because when Mars gets close, it's very likely that you have a fever a couple of days. You may feel agitated for a couple of days. People jump in your stuff for a few days. What Pluto's trying to do to Mars, is bring out the testosterone of Mars. Now, if you're Mars, being a boss as you have been and an office manager for a long time with a strong Mars, I don't think you've had much trouble with Mars. But people who are more wimpy or they can't express their Mars, this transit can be really rough and people will jump in their stuff and get in their face and it can be quite dangerous. But I don't think it's the case with you because you have Mars rising and so your Mars is not weak, it's already strong. All right, but nevertheless, I don't care what age you are in terms of dating and relating to all people in the world, your chart is done being pushed around. It's done, oh, I got a smile on our face. Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Explain, please.
Well, one of the things in all the jobs that I've had, I've always been, even though I've been managers, I've always been second in position to like the general manager or the person in charge or the owner of company.
Right.
And that was something I heard from an astrologist, gosh, 40, 50 years ago. And what I came to realize from that was there's a lot of power in being the second in charge because you don't have to face all the headwinds when you're in charge all the time.
And Virgos prefer being number 2.
Yeah. So I found that there was a lot of power in that, and I really utilized that to my advantage. But also in other areas, I would also, because I was rather shy and not very outspoken, I would also allow myself to be pushed around. And now I'm noticing.
At that time. And when did that change?
Probably in the last, it probably started coming on in 2018, but it's getting stronger every year.
Okay, well, very good. But did you notice the parallel between that and your illness?
I can't think about the illness and this.
Okay. Well, now I want you to think about the illness. I don't want you to
Okay.
think about the per se. What I want
Okay.
you to think about is discord in the body.
Oh, I got you.
Because when Pluto hits Mars, Mars is sitting there saying, I don't know what to do. Well, Pluto's saying, well, let it out. Let these people have it. Throw somebody out that window. And if the conscious mind says, oh, no. Of course, I'm goofing around about throwing out the window. What I really mean is say it, standing up for yourself and saying. But Virgos are very quick to criticize themselves.
Right.
Especially if they make a scene. Oh my God. The Virgos will not make a scene at the office. And if they do, it's a big scene and it's been coming for a long time. Because the Virgos are right. They can't stand working with people that don't want to work hard. They can't stand working with people that don't care. It just drives them batty.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's your nature. To care, like we put in the book, to care and to be pure. So I would go back to your first bout of cancer, which was what year?
2006.
2006 was the year that Eris was discovered at the same degree. 24th degree. No, that's not right. Yeah, that's about right. Eris was discovered around the 25th, 24th degree of Aries. And it was hitting that Mars. Okay, you've been living with Mars opposite Eris all your life. You just didn't know it, like the rest of us.
Wow.
So let's put a hold on that for a moment. What the real meaning of Pluto hitting Mars is, if you've not stood up for yourself, usually Pluto Mars will bring you a nasty situation where you had better stand up for yourself, or it can get really ugly. It really can. And if the personality starts to stand up for themselves, usually the culprit goes away rather easily. But the whole thing is the intent. What matters in astrology is the same thing of what matters in A Course in Miracles. What do you feel you deserve? Mm-hmm. Do you feel you deserve to be smacked around? Do you feel you deserve to be treated nicely? That's a big question.
Yeah. That's
exactly what it is. And I am here to suggest to you that answer is changing with you now. Mm-hmm. It has been changing the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
It has been changing the last 14 years.
Yeah.
A Virgo is, I hate to say it, but a Virgo is prone to say things to themselves like, well, you deserved it. You brought it on. They're very tough with themselves. Right. And it's really, I think it's changing. I think Virgos are changing. And I understand why it's that way. But what it's brought us to at this moment is clearly time to look at your past life chart.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a look at your past life transcript, what I call the past life transcript, or the 12th harmonic. Okay, in my mind, I've studied this a lot. This is the history book of your past lives in terms of what have you done with God? How have you thought about God? Have you thought about going back towards him or her? Have you thought of God getting away from? Have you thought about a convent, a missionary? What have you thought about? Hiding from it? And most people choose to hide in the world, which they think is real, till they find it's not. Look at these 3 Scorpio planets in the 12th house. Jupiter, Chiron, Moon, in Scorpio in the 12th house. So this means that you have very big, passionate feelings about God, but you're not really sure. This is how you have been, before this life. You have had very big, passionate feelings, but you've not really been sure how to express them. So you kind of put a bushel over them. You heard the phrase, putting a bushel over your light. Mm-hmm. That's what 12th house planets are like. Here you got Pluto at the top of the chart, opposite Uranus. Ooh, very powerful planets with a T-square to, Eris and Gemini. So this means that in your past lives, you've had very strong feelings of how people should be treated, and you were outspoken about it. You were not quiet about it. You said what you had to say. And when somebody's treated unfairly, you said it. And that's a big Virgo thing. Virgo's all about the underdog, pro underdog. So we see this Eris time manifesting you in 2005, 2006. We see in the past life, the Eris is a big deal. Before it was even known, it wouldn't even be on this chart. We put it on this chart, 2005, and Eris is very much like a volcano erupting. So I would suggest to you around that time, your illness came upon you like a volcano. It's like something erupted from somewhere.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I want to ask you about is what really erupted. This is where my joy comes in. What really erupted was the real Kathy. She was erupting from what the parents had said, what society had said, what the job had said, whatever. But she was erupting. And that's not easy. And that's why 2005 and 2006, a lot of things happened in the world beside Trump. Your response?
In 2005 and 6, I had been living in a small mountain town in Colorado, and I was starting to feel the need to do something different with my life. And I knew,
as opposed to doing what?
As opposed to staying where I was.
And doing what?
Well, my future was starting to be a little unsure at that time. The job that I'd had that was secure had left, and I didn't know if I could maintain my house. And I thought there's really nothing else for me to do here. And it was during the initial cancer diagnosis that this little voice in my head said to me, it's time to move.
Okay. And I'm assuming up till that time you were doing all this office work.
I was doing office work, not at the level I was before, but at
all right, but it's still, you're like queen of the office work because you're really good at it. Yeah. Okay, and that little voice in your head, Eris, started to say what to you?
It's time for a change.
Okay, it's not just vague and time for a change. What did it say to you? I want to do what? Boy, when you talk about this subject, I told Liz I was going to. When you talk about this subject with a Virgo, it's a really interesting discussion. You started to want to do what?
I really did not know what to do.
Okay.
Truly. I mean, I was questioning about whether I wanted to stay there or to move to another state.
Okay. Number one. The only people I allow to say, I don't know what I'm going to do are Neptune people with big Pisces problems. You don't have that. Therefore, we're going to revisit this question.
Okay.
What you knew what you wanted to do. And what is it you wanted to do? You wanted to leave the state and go do what kind of thing? What kind of thing? I'm not talking about the job. I'm not talking about what kind of Kathy did you want? You wanted to possess and let Kathy out of the box. And the new Kathy looked like what?
Well, someone living in tornado weather instead of snow. I mean, that was about the only thing that I knew, is that I would be moving to a different climate and just starting over.
Okay, so at that time, you believed that the change was physical in your type of work, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I just knew that I was proud of myself for listening to the voice that I needed to move and taking action on that.
That's very, very good.
Yeah.
Did your hair grow longer? Did your hair grow longer?
I really don't remember.
Okay. Usually with this phrase of letting your hair down.
Oh, I gotcha.
This phrase is usually very relevant because it's symbolic. It's symbolic. I want to let the Kathy out. I don't want Kathy around anymore that's worried about getting type graded and all this and labeled and all this. I want to let the real fire of me out. Eris is a tough planet. She is wild. So I'm not saying you want to go out and do crazy stuff, but it's symbolic of you wanting to come out and mean more and this to have more passion released and break a lot of the female rules that had been laid upon you till that time.
Well, what happened was in moving to Oklahoma City, I got involved with the Unity Church, and it was through that church that I started learning about healing modalities and healing touch. And moving into
Hello, Kathy.
Yeah.
Hello, Kathy. Healing modalities. Hello.
Yeah.
What the hell kind of CPAs doing healing? What kind of bean counters doing healing?
Oh, there's a few.
That's what I'm talking about. The lid was coming off and the true self was coming out. See what I mean, Claudia? You got to use different kinds of, can openers when you're working with a Virgo person. You just have to, because God bless them, they're just so damn good at what they do. To get them to think in a new paradigm way is not easy.
Well, it was 2007 and 2008 before all of that started manifesting.
Yeah, and this is all the time when the illness started coming. And the illness was coming why? The illness was coming because you were starting to let yourself out of the box. Get back in there. Let yourself out. Get back in there. Let yourself out. Get back in there. That's what it was about. Did you have GI problems at the time?
No, those developed more after I moved here.
Okay, all right. Well, that's the same answer to that one there. So let's go back to your past life and see what it says, because it really tells us. I really feel good for you because I really think a lot of change, good change is coming your way, and you're on the doorstep right now. They've changed something in Zoom. These screens are painting better than they used to. Okay, so this is a very passionate Kathy for a long time who's kept her light under a bushel. And at some point in time, the last 3 years, Uranus has been right here. The last 3 years, Uranus has been right here, opposite these things. And Uranus is starting to activate them now. Matter of fact, Uranus is not even there yet. It's going to be the next 3 years are going to activate and release all this passion that's been in you, crammed up and stifled. This is a very pleasant person working with people, very nice to people, very fair to people, very creative. Everything's really, really pretty good. But what you're seeing in the past life is the Uranus was going to start letting you out. You've been, I'm not going to say to you like I say to most Virgos, you've been behaving too long. I'm not saying that to you. I don't think that's the issue. But I am saying that for a time, you have been keeping your light down and now it wants out. And when the number one thing that the light does is it wants to heal. When healers started coming out in 77, when Chiron was discovered in November of 1977, healers started coming out of the woodwork. All they talked about was healing and energy work. That's all I talked about. And for all those years, I kept dealing with people, energy work. And a lot of them, I told them we're going to come off the conveyor belt. Tons of them wanted to do massage. Marcia, she's out there somewhere. They wanted to do massage work, and they did. Now what's happening is you're not hearing the word energy so much now. Now you're hearing the word intent. Intent. It's all turning to intent. The energy is second. The intent is everything.
Yeah, the intention. Yeah.
So now they're all kind of doctors of intent now who are working with you at the intent level. And that's why we're able to heal people with the distance with this healing. Because I work on the intent. What does this person intend? What program am I running on them? And it doesn't matter where they are in space. Okay, this is going to take over medicine or something like it. So, what's happening to you? And I'm very sorry that you had to deal with all this physical stuff because it's awful, I know. But I really think you're on your way. Here you come, and let's go. And so it's time for us now to take a look at your sixth harmonic. Okay. And
Okay.
Teresa was asking me these questions earlier. The sixth harmonic is the one that's about your intention. I'm sorry, about your direction, about your not occupation, but your hero's journey. What is your journey about? And what do we see at the top of your chart? We see Eris sitting in Taurus. This fanatically tough, pro-feminine planet is right at the top, and it's in Taurus. That means you want to dig up the soil and show people the really neat stuff is down underneath as you overturn your shovel. Let's dig this place up and show you what's underneath. All right, let's move on with this. The moon is really strong. It's still 8 degrees away from the descendant. So these are 4 strong planets in the 6th house of work and service to others. They're in the sign of Capricorn, which is the sign of duty and responsibility. So you still work well with a strong sense of duty and responsibility. They're all opposite Jupiter, and they all make a T-square to the sun in the 3rd house in Libra. The sun in the 3rd house in Libra means that you need to start writing. And what do Virgos write? Virgos write how-to books.
Mm-hmm.
Virgos explain to people, because they're the best at it. They explain to people how to do this and do that. Don't do it like this, do it like that. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. And yeah, they can be a pain, but they're right. When a Virgo says to do what they're saying, because they're right.
Yeah.
Virgos think they know most things, and they do. Aries think they know most things, and they're oftentimes wrong. Leos think they know a lot, and they're oftentimes wrong. Sagittarius, who knows what they think? I can't figure that out. Scorpios know, they know exactly what they know, and they're right, but they want you to think they're wrong. They want you to think that they think they're wrong. So Rick's got that part figured out too. Okay. So this great big T-square to the sun in Libra in the 3rd means that part of your destiny is to write a book for the masses. Why? It's in Libra. And the only answer in Libra is so that you can have a better operating society. Mm-hmm. So we mix 2 things together here with that. With the Virgo, let's get the skills done right, and I will teach you how. And it ain't about bean counting. It's going to be about healing. And Libra is about so that we have a better operating society. Now, what does that sound like to you?
Well, it sounds real interesting, and I am a good writer because I've had to write for those management jobs I had, produce newsletters. So I am a good writer. And while I don't know what my topic would be right now, there are times when I will listen in my mind sequentially, oh, if we just did this, or we just did that, or if it flowed this way, or you do this step first and then that one, then that one.
That's right. You're a systems kind of writer. Yeah. That makes total sense. Now let's go look at your 3rd harmonic, which I don't do very often. And that's the harmonic we look at for people's writing ability. I found this to be pretty useful when it talks about what they're going to write about and when. So here's your 3rd harmonic. Here we got Venus and Chiron in Aquarius opposite the moon in Leo. So I think that means you got a lot to say. Okay? What's it about? Well, it's all about Jupiter in Taurus Everything's pointing to Jupiter in Taurus. We see the Taurus sign again. It's all pointing to Taurus energy in the 6th house. So what that means is you would write books because it would help people to grow food, to heal themselves, because we're seeing the decay of the entire imperialism. We're seeing the decay of it. It's all falling apart. And we're going to need to teach a lot of people to fish and how to keep cuts clean and how to do this and how to do that. And we're going to need a lot of how-to books about how to set up your tent and how to set up a village. And it's all about grassroots campaigns now. And there ain't nobody to put in charge better than you. I want you in my camp. I don't know if it's got to do with healing people, what is growing food, what this or that. But we keep seeing the Taurus. The Taurus part means you're concentrating on, look, you can't grow good food when the soil stinks. Okay? So we see you working at that level. We see plenty of other people come through this show with that interest. So you're working on how do we work with cleaning up the earth, getting rid of the toxins. If Virgo is anything, get rid of the toxins, get rid of the toxins in the earth, get rid of the toxins in my body.
Right.
Right? And let's purify and let's get to town and let's start teaching each other. And there's nothing that makes a Virgo happier than you're starting to grow good, healthy food and you're feeding your family good, healthy food. Because Virgo is all about preventative medicine. Not wait until they're sick. Keeping them in shape before. Now, what do you think about them apples?
This Taurus energy keeps showing up. My ex-husband was a Taurus. My son is a Taurus. My daughter-in-law is a Taurus. So there's lots of that energy already that I'm having to deal with. And my daughter-in-law is also a biologist, and grows her own food in her garden and stuff. So I've learned a lot just from her on how to grow things and how to care for things, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I think this is a marvelous symbol here. And we saw that the 6th harmonic was not something far out of your reach. We saw that it's really lined up with what your nature is like. And I would even imagine that when you were doing all your office work, there was something very Taurian about that too, because that's just the way you're built. And Taurus is about getting things organized. If you got a messy warehouse, put one Taurus in there and shut the door.
Yeah.
And come back in 6 months and they leave them about 400 jelly sandwiches. And you come back in and everything's organized.
Except when they cook.
Okay, now, all right. We've seen really good clarity in these charts. The main statement in the chart is that you've kept your light under a bushel in your 12th harmonic. Which means, in my opinion, that your love for God, your attitude towards going back to God, the things that you study, et cetera, I don't know what words to put on it. You have not let them out fully, whether people around you hassled you or it wasn't in your church's favor or whatever. But what's happening now, and this is the most important thing, Teresa, is your spirituality is being unleashed. You don't care anymore. What kind of price do you have to continue to pay? You don't care anymore. And what that means is this purity part of you has been real and has been right all along, and you've not given it enough credence. And now it's time to say, yeah, it's been right. Right? And that's why I think it's going to make you younger. It's going to make you seem younger. It's going to impel you. And I really think that these kinds of changes are the changes of intent that make everything else happen.
Right.
So that's why, Teresa, you don't need to be an astrologer of the stock market. You just need to be an astrologer of the intent. If the intent is straight, then your will is lined up with God's will. And no NYSE is going to mess with your intention when you're lined up with God's intention. It just ain't possible. Now, these words, I think, are very much like goddess words. And I think, if anything, Virgos are fanatics about the goddess. I think Virgos really want to be, I don't know if they say it, but they really want to be in sync with goddess energy.
Yeah.
What's that mean to you?
Well, several years ago, the first time I ever heard about Kuan Yin, I didn't even know that there was a
Kuan
female
Yin.
Buddha. Yeah. And I was at a Ross and I saw a Kuan Yin statue, and I didn't know anything about her, anything at all, but it's like, this statue has to come home with me. And it's like right in the middle of my living room. And I still do not know that much about her, but it's like, I need that. I have to have that.
Well, she's a major ascended master.
Mhm.
I'm not going to say much about her. She's, you can study plenty about her.
Right.
But when you talk about the goddess, you're talking about what Eris is doing now, because
Mhm.
Eris is the feminine leader.
Mhm.
She's not like Pluto. And when you hear me talk on December 12th about the end of this age of codependency, it took me a while to figure that out. But that's because the Pluto return.
Mhm.
It's not because of the codependency. On the 12th, we're going to be talking about how Eris is working with the codependency thing and Pluto together. But what is Eris doing? You're hearing it everywhere. We're tired of you're hearing that word everywhere, of the poisonous patriarchy. They're exactly right.
Mhm.
You see all these movies with 600 guys in one room, making up everything, making all the rules, while the women sit by and, it's just crazy. And it's done. It's over. You're seeing it everywhere. You're seeing it everywhere. You're seeing it Black Lives Matter. You're seeing it in the baseball unions. You're seeing it within the Catholic Church. You're seeing it within high schools, colleges, grade schools. It's happening everywhere. People are fanatically wanting to do what's right. And it's not because they're crazy about political correctness. It's that during this time of great upheaval, we're thinking a lot about, let's do it right. We've done it wrong. Let's do it right. The question is, how can you get so much done when the client when the patient on the table is going through so many operations at once? How can you do that? That's the question. Is there intervention? Is there intervention? Something's stirring. You can hear it and you can feel it. And you're an agent of that. So don't get hung up like a lot of people do at the end of the reading. Don't get hung up on, yeah, Rick, but how do I do it?
Yeah.
Don't get hung up on that, because that comes from you and her.
Mhm.
That comes from you and her. And she will direct you.
Yeah.
And I think that Claudia has something to say because she's busy holding her mouth shut. And that's how the nonverbal works. And I think it would be nice to hear. See how it works? I'm very unpredictable, Miss Claudia. Go
You
ahead.
sure are.
I know. Go ahead, dear.
I wanted to see about her. I wanted to see her 6th harmonic again, and I wanted to see her 12th harmonic, because I see that in her 12th harmonic, I think she's got all that Scorpio energy.
That's
in
right.
The 12th, right?
Yes, and here's the 6th.
Okay, so that's the 6th.
She had 3 planets in the 12th house in her 12th harmonic.
So
This is the 6th where Eris is sitting on
Yeah.
the top.
right. So Pluto is going to be going over all those planets in the 6th. The Pluto now.
The transiting Pluto now
Yeah,
is right here. It's going to go over that moon. It's going to go over.
yeah.
It's going to be here for 20 years.
Uh-huh.
this area for at least 20 years, going over these two planets.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. Pluto will all be going over this during the next year and a half.
Yeah.
Eris will be spending 20 years going over this.
Right.
And
That could-
Saturn is sitting right here, right now.
Mm-hmm. That could be a real big,
That's why
You know,
that's why she's having the reading.
yeah. Do you mind to going to her 12?
No problem at all. Here's the 12th. I want to do your return chart too.
Oh, good.
Okay, here's your your
Okay.
12th harmonic. And see, Uranus, Claudia, Uranus is going to go through 21, 26, 29 in the next 2 to 3 years. And it's going to bring these to life.
Yeah.
They're not going to stay under the bushel.
No. And I this year more than ever, I've begun to notice the eclipses, and the eclipses are going to be on the Taurus and Scorpio axis for the next year and a half. And that's also going to trigger some of that activity in the 12th. Also,
Right.
counteracting the 6th as well, because they're on the axis.
See, what this means, Kathy, is we don't know why, because you're never going to figure out why.
Right.
But in your past lives, you have a strong history of kind of like meeting secretly with people to study spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like that. I don't know for sure. And people love to hear these kind of ego-centered statements. You had quiet meetings and the kid, and people, the ego just loves hearing that stuff, which I won't do. But we know it was like that, was something like that. I don't understand how, but we know that it's time now that at that time you needed to keep it hidden,
Mm-hmm.
or you would have been fried somehow. And we know now that it's time to bring it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's exactly what Claudia is looking at.
And it's going to bring it out. I mean, to kind of go along with what we've been talking about the whole time is that just that that passion that, that Kathy or her Virgo self really kind of puts a bit of a damper on in the past. You're not going to have any of that, or at least you're going to you're going to let go more and let the real Kathy out.
And what did I say before? And I think it's really true. You're going to, Virgo is not the sign that goes, I told you so. But that's what's going on here. There's a bunch of I told you so's. I was right all along, and you were. You don't have to say I told you so, but say it to yourself. That's fine. But you were right. You were right when you kept seeing purity and spiritual values having a place in the workplace, and other people weren't paying attention to it.
Right.
You were right on track. Very good stuff there, Claudia. Now, I want to show you your return chart.
Okay.
This is the return of your recent birthday.
Okay. Wow.
This is very significant, and they're very accurate. And this is your exact birthday by the stars, not by the calendar. And this will hold true until next August, around the 26th. We see the sun is in the second house. This is the most important part of the chart. Where's the sun? Since this is a solar chart. The sun is in the late second house, third house. That means that for your next year, your main focus will be upon rebuilding your self-worth, maybe even money, and rebuilding your mind. Okay, why? Because they're prefaces to making big steps. Okay, what do we see here? You're definite in this chart that you're lining up your Mars and Mercury both with Neptune. And all that means is you're bowing down to God's will.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it means. That's what yielding to Neptune means. Look at the 10th house, Chiron in Aries, Moon in Aries, Eris in Aries. That means you're taking off. Let's go. Let's go. Let's get going. Let's go. Remember, I told you all the people that wanted little ponies, and people were saying there aren't any ponies. You're the ones going to be saying, get over here. We got a big thoroughbred for you. Come on. Come on. Get up on there. Okay. Look at this Pluto, the main planet in the whole chart, right on the angle. Pluto in the 7th house. This is how I knew what your reading was going to be about when I saw this earlier. Pluto right on the 7th house cusp for the next year. What does that mean? That's the part that's throwing people out the windows. Now, that doesn't mean throwing people out the window, but it means you're no longer going to hold back on you can't do this, you can't do that because of your rules about how you should treat people. That's what it means. What's that say to you?
Well, I have been cautious in how I deal with people because I want them to like me. And
Oh,
so,
yes.
yes. And so
Sure.
now I'm realizing that that's not valid any longer. I can like
And
me because I'm me.
that's the biggest poison on the earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not your fault. It's just the way we're trained.
Right. So now I'm realizing
Yeah,
that that's no
Erica,
longer
you're right.
valid. And just,
You're right, Erica. Yeah, you're exactly right. It just means that, well, about 10 years ago, I did a newsletter once, and I questioned whether Americans are really free. And I really came up with a shocking conclusion that we're really not free. We're really worried to death about what everybody thinks of us.
Right.
And the more I discovered, it was just amazing. So I think that's what we're talking about here. That's what we're talking about here. And it's not like you to be rude. You're not going to be rude, but you're not going to let it hold you back.
Right.
That's what the 7th house is.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I want to ask you before I forget. In the beginning, we talked about where you were stuck. How do you feel so much now about how you were stuck and what you've heard tonight?
well, what I've heard tonight is really very hopeful because I felt stuck in that, with all these years of this medical stuff going on, it's kind of like, okay, what's going on here? I need to move beyond feeling like I'm never going to be well again. And I think part of this has helped me relax a little bit, get the rest that I need to recover, to rebuild. So I didn't have the outside forces interfering with whatever new growth was going on mentally and through my meditations and stuff. So it kind of gave me the opportunity or an open window for these changes to come in more gently and easily versus so forcefully,
I think that's said perfectly.
Yeah. So
This kind of new attitude is going to prosper the growth and the healing.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize it. Of course, students, we don't realize how many poisonous attitudes that we're carrying with us. We don't realize it at all. We think we're being cool about it, but they really are poisonous to us. Because as the Course says, the body has no decision. The body doesn't decide. It doesn't get up and feel good or bad. It does what the brain tells it. And that's a tough one. That's a tough one when you're not brought up right. And we have a whole history of just not being taught the things that we need to be taught. So it sounds to me like you're getting reassurance that your physical stuff, which would scare anybody to death, is going to take a back seat. It's going to relax more.
Right.
And I can sense that Mars in you. You're not an idle passerby.
No.
You're going to be getting with it. Now, tell me more about these thoughts you've had about where they've come from. Tell me more about the Unity Church.
Oh, it was started by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and the basic premise is, which it's going to escape me, We are of one mind, one thought, one universe.
Yeah, but I mean, what
Bigger-
does your mixing with the Unity Church mean to you now?
What it means to me now, well,
Yeah.
I told the minister here several years ago that while I enjoyed coming to church there, I could not listen to his sermons any longer. But I still wanted to be there, and I would volunteers to help in other ways. We serve a meal every Sunday, so I volunteer in the kitchen and I volunteer doing other things, but I cannot listen to him talk.
Okay, that
Because-
was a minister of what religion?
Unity.
Oh, you could not handle hearing him talk. Is he giving you too much of what?
What I was picking up on from him was the unresolved rage that he has within him that seems to come out, that I could sense, that I could pick up on in his sermons. And after I went through all the healing touch training, I could not sit there and listen to that anymore. It just
I've heard so
gave me
much.
the willies. I
I've
just
heard so
couldn't do it.
much about healing touch too, and how it really was the predecessor to all this Reiki stuff in our country. And to Donna Eden's work, she started with that also.
Right.
She told me about that. Now, what do you think his rage is about?
What do you think? His rage.
What do you think?
Oh,
What do you think his shoulds are about?
well, he talks a lot about it from his childhood and how he was raised, and his he had a mother who was a rageaholic and whatever. And I think it's just all his unresolved issues. And while I'm sure he has resolved a lot of that through his years of training, it still comes out, sideways in people. If we haven't dealt with our stuff, it comes out
Okay.
in other ways.
Okay, now you're getting to what I want to talk about. I told you at the end. I have reserved the date of, I'm going to go over the schedule with everybody. I reserved the date of December 16th. We're going to cut away from this people being the need to get unplugged. We're cutting away and we're going to talk about codependency, because Liza and I are working at this deeper level, and this is kind of my specialty. I've been working at it for several strong months now. We're seeing it everywhere. We're seeing people who've been warned and warned and warned, and we're talking about 20 to 15 years about being warned about being codependent. And what we're seeing now is like the final report cards being put on the table. And if you're looking around, think about it now. Relatives, people you work with, neighbors, etc. You're seeing a lot of people who've pushed their codependency so far that they're being cut off from it now. They're being removed from their support systems. It's happening with countries. It's happening with businesses. It's happening with tons of individuals that I see. It's happening in your life in some way, because we all have different levels, even if they're minor, of codependencies. And Pluto's not being very cool about it. Pluto's being downright strong about it. And the ugly thing about it is a lot of people are in the news and they're mislabeling it, and they're doing this incorrectly. They're pointing it, you're to blame, no, you're to blame, and nobody's to blame. And what Pluto's doing, it's trying once again to remind us that we all have the strength inside of ourselves to control our own evolution. And that's one of the really good things about you, Kathy, and your chart. Virgos are not dependent at all. Virgos are leaders. They want to be number two, but they really want to be number one, but they really want to be number two, but they really be number one, but they really want to two. They're number one by being number two. They're just really, really good at it. And the reason they don't want to be number one is because they don't want the ego battles.
Right.
They don't want the ego battles. They can't stand ego battles.
Right.
So I think you're in really good shape. I'll just read off quickly over the next till mid-February. The people that are up for readings like tonight are next week is Lav Blush, you know who she is, off for Thanksgiving. Valerie A is December 2nd. Debbie S is December 9th. Then we do the codependent talk. Then we're off for 2 weeks in a row for Christmas and New Year's. Then we have a bunch in a row. January 6th, Tyler P. January 13th, Megan G. January 20th, Debbie B. January 27th, Taro M. February 3rd, Mark R., who's been with us many times. February 10th, Joyce V. And I'm not taking any more new people at the time, just because I just don't know how Mr. Unplugged wants to, the great Unplugged in the sky, whether he wants to go this way or that way. I just don't know. But do you have any questions, Kathy? I've shown you the main stuff, and I could show you lots of things, but it's not appropriate. The thing to show you is that you, once again, like everybody, you're at that time.
Right.
And unfortunately, you went through a lot of physical pain, physical worry, hardship. But hopefully now that's the end of that. And your healing work will help come back to you and heal you. What do you think of when you think of doing healing work?
Well, I used to think that by doing healing touch, which is doing hands on the body, similar to Reiki,
Yeah, it is.
what was the only way that I could do that type of work or that healing work. But I'm now beginning to realize that there may be another pathway open for me, and I don't know what that pathway is yet. I think it will be revealed to me. So I'm learning, and it looks like there's going to be opportunities to learn what that is coming up for me.
Well, if I've learned anything, Reiki's nothing to fool with. It's really powerful.
It's very
and
powerful.
it's really
yes.
real.
Oh yeah.
I've also seen where people are Reiki crazy, where they want to put Reiki on you without even asking you if you want
I
it.
know.
And I had people give it to me while I was in the hospital without asking my permission, and they really could have hurt me. So it's nothing to fool around with.
Right.
I do think it has many tributaries, and it has many fingers that reach out and become other different types of healing also. Anybody got any questions for Kathy for tonight? It has its own Wikipedia entry. Well, I found out about that. I tried to get mine. They threw me out. They said I wasn't important enough. So I found out you don't just walk into Wikipedia and lay down right there. So anyhow,
We
questions
can
for,
write you into Wikipedia. If
huh?
anybody can add to Wikipedia, so we can write you in.
No. Well, that was
No?
my way. That was my way of learning. I don't need to be there. Anybody got any questions? Anybody for Kathy? I think Kathy needs to be congratulated, and I think she's on her way, and I think it's exciting,
Well, thank
and
you.
I think it's going to be really good. And I'm sorry you've had your physical stuff, but I really think you're going to be better for it. I think you are going to write these books or make these videos or whatever it is.
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that's what it's going to be about. And we want to remember that Taurus part. We need a little Taurus in there somewhere. We're going to mix in some dirt.
Mixing some dirt. Well, and somebody mentioned in a comment that that I might be sensitive and intuitive, and I know that part of me is becoming more developed as time goes on too, as I give myself permission
Exactly.
to feel
Exactly.
that. So
I think so. That Scorpio stuff from your 12th harmonic is very sensitive and very intuitive. And in your natal chart, it's got to show up in the natal chart also. It just has to. It's not the Mars, of course. Jupiter in Sag has its own type of intuition. Venus in Cancer can be very intuitive. A T-square to Pluto can be very intuitive. Pluto square to Mars can bring it on also. But the big thing is that your Mercury, which has been for so long a bean counter, has just encountered 3 years of Neptune hitting it. So your brain has changed from being a mechanical type thinker to the more intuitive as Neptune has passed over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, everybody, I know you got a million things to do. I won't keep you any longer. Thank you very much, Kathy, for
Thank
helping
you.
us out tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Good luck
appreciate
to
it.
you. Good luck to you.
Thank
We'll be
you.
watching.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah, let us
Thanks,
know.
Rick.
Let us know the names of the bodies going
course.
out the windows. I know I'm terrible. Hey, I'll see you next week where we're going to do Lav Blue. And she's a cool character. She's been all around the world. She lives in Western Australia for a while. She'll be on with us, and she's kind of a healer herself. So I'll see you next week. Thanks.
Bye, Kathy. Bye, Rick.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, YouTubers. Good night.
Good
Take
night.